Hi everyone, my name is Abhiraj Garakapati. Welcome to my YouTube channel Amazing Abhi. Hi, today I am here to explain you guys the full spoilers for Boruto TBV Vortex chapter 36. This month we got the spoilers out faster than usual, both in how they leak because I thought they were going to drop tomorrow and how quickly the pages leaked out last night because there's a lot going on in this chapter. After a lot, we got a lot to unpack, especially when you start going through all the Easter eggs and the dozens of images in the future timelines that Borushiki saw in his new 10 Directions update. And there's also quite a bit of lore that has been added to the franchise as well. This chapter, we've got a lot to talk about between this chapter and the next one. Now for the too long didn't read the TikTok brain. Borushiki saw visions of Momoshiki controlling Boruto to his body with that horn fully sprouted now, and Kawaki is now in his horned version of Karma 2. Kabu's case to remove Shikamaru's actor Hokage has basically reached his end point, and Shikamaru is cooked to the point that he's almost ready to be served on a platter. Sarada activated her mind get your showing on, but the eye in question being focused on is her second eye that we've never seen her use the power for, but Ko does manage to capture her before the eye itself can fully lock on him, and Amato has taken extremely deep steps towards becoming the eyes end of the board story, especially when you pay attention to some of the paneling with this character. There's quite a bit more, there's a lot more in this, but that should satisfy the too long didn't read section of viewers enough to make them read the chapter when it drops. Speaking of the chapter drops on the 20th this month, so make sure to read it on the official release via Manga Plus or the Shonen and Jump app. Both are free to use. Manga Plus is what Suacious editors use to monitor more closely. Read the chapter start to finish so it counts as a read on the hot list, which is the ranking system, which is similar to the table of contents and Weekly Shonen Jump. The higher up you are on that table of content / hot list, the better off you're doing. I'll have the review out on the 20th or the 21st. I've touched base with the editor. I just don't know how long the review is because this has a lot to unpack here. Which reminder, we're reviewing. We're not doing a recap or a story time read along. Read the chapter before you review. Anything you don't hear me discuss in this today is because I'm waiting for extra clarification, because I've seen 2 different translations for the chapter and both of them make some differing points based on some of the wording. So let's start with the biggest thing in this chapter, which is Amato did indeed experiment on Borushiki when he was unconscious. But the trade-off is that Borushiko's visions with 10 directions are appearing faster than before. There's seemingly more of a toll on his body than before. And in this chapter, Borushiki gets a vision of Boruto and his full karma transformation, but Momoshiki is the run and control of this body. We know that based on the fact that the horn is fully sprouted out, and we haven't seen that since Boruto Part 1 and Momoshiki's Byakugan is active, but most importantly, Boruto's other eye is closed down, which is consistent with when we've seen Momoshiki suppressing Boruto's influence. Now we don't have full context based on how this happened, why it happened, but the smart money is on what we were told in Boruto Part 1 more than once in the Omnipotence. Momoshiki lost the ability to resurrect using Boruto's body, but he could always still hijack it under the right circumstances, and in the first arc of Boruto TBV Vortex, Borushiki is freaking out, ordering Boruto to flee because he was about to lose control. Before we move ahead, please take a second to like on this video. A like tells me that you enjoyed this topic. Your support helps Amazing Abhi grow naturally. Boruto and Momoshiki do have their deal in place where Momoshiki gets full control over Boruto, but that is only after Jura is defeated. Which begs the question, is this potentially after Jura is defeated, or did someone else happen to do something? Did something else happen where Momoshiki saw an opportunity to hijack Boruto's body and took it? Personally, I'm leaning towards that being the case due to the eye being closed, meaning that he is suppressing Boruto forcibly. Now on the other hand, we've got to give Ko flowers here. We make fun of Ko here on the channel a lot, but we got to give him this flowers. As I've been saying for the last 5 years, I personally am holding on to those code stocks. I think he's the Kabuto of this story, and I'm sticking to that. This is one of those rare code Ws that he's gotten. The chapter details again How Code used his brain during the Momoshi battle to choose wisely to not enter into the battlefield where there are so many powerful enemies where it can take turns whooping his ass. But instead he chose to use the chaos to start placing claw markers all around the village since the Momoshiklons have his DNA in their claw marks on them, meaning he could move freely between them if he wants to. He could also briefly pop out, place the claw mark, and go right back in without being caught, meaning all those extra clones running around the village where they got over 200 and were causing all that fuss. It gave him ample time and cover to quickly place claw marks without being noticed. We get the benefit of him doing this in that Sarada has no way of knowing when or how Code will come for us. She just knows that he's coming. While she does know in this chapter that she's being targeted, and she cuts on her showing gun to briefly aid in being aware and where to look for the claw marks since they're made out of chakra, and the showing gun can see chakra as a color. We see even that plan is not foolproof, and we see when a sword has weaknesses as a character after it start to pop up, though you could argue this was intentional, because she was trying to get caught. Code had a claw mark placed on the underside of a roof inside an alley that Sardar is walking down. Sardar thought by luring Code out by going someplace secluded, but in reality she signed herself up for a much worse fate. Code makes this move for Sardar first by having the claw marks appear at her feet, which Sardar noticed as right away, and she begins to turn to face him. But what's interesting here is that her showing gun is not cut off, so you could argue that was her allowing herself to be captured. But Code is on her right away and he slams her face first into the ground. He pins her down from behind. However, that's where we learn something new about Code. That new arm of his has a secret function to it that we didn't know about until now. We speculate on what it was, but now we have concrete evidence. It can sense chakra. In particular, it is made to sense Boruto chakra. So the moment he grabbed hold of Sardar, the arm suddenly began to glow, and it picked up on the flying rides and markers at Boruto chakra, and Code knows that she had them hidden on her body, and they resonate with Code's chakra arm, and they begin to fly towards the air towards Code's arm. Code, being the smart guy that he is, figures out right away that Sardar what it was she was planning. He tells her he figured out what her plan was. She somehow knew that he was coming for her, and that since Boruto chakra is placed inside those markers, that she was clearly planning to add Boruto to teleport to the Tentals dimension. Code immediately discards the markers, and upon seeing this, Sardar hits the break glass in case of emergency button, and she does the one thing that we even waiting so many muscle for her to do, which is cut on her mangekul showing on. But this time it is her second eye, but since she's already face down into the claw mark, Code is able to shove her face into that claw mark and her body into it before she can even use the eye, which make all the jokes you want about Code getting his ass whoops so much that his sixth sense basically kicked in, and he knew right away that he was in trouble. That Damon fight really gave this guy PTSD. Now this makes Kostin Koji's vision of Boruto, so with Momoshiki in control, that much more of a dear moment. Koji saw vision of Boruto, so having a mental breakdown in one of those film roles, and he's holding Sardar's earring and with his head down and his shoulders hunched over that, plus the sign of Momoshiki means that Boruto so might just have to throw caution to the wind here out of desperation, save Sardar, because Koji's new vision tells us outright that the plan to use Sardar's bait is going to fail now that the future has changed. And based on the visions of the film rolls, it looks like there's a majorly pissed off Hidari as well as Code that Sardar has to fight, which Jesus 2 vs 1. The other thing of interest here is Amato confirms he came up with the plan to take down Kostin Koji during the Momo Shibudo, and he already figured out how it works on paper, what's the weaknesses, and how Kostin Koji has been misusing that power, which I'll talk about further in the review. But this was its super deep cut and a call back to Boruto Part 1, one of multiple times in Boruto story this reach back for stuff that was established in part with an art, so that is a nice wink and a nod to the people who have been following the story in a chronological way, since there are a growing number who just started with Boruto, so or they skip Part 1 of Boruto into Boruto Part 2. Amato then tells Kostin Koji that he did indeed experiment on his body while he was unconscious, so Kostin Koji has officially entered his 5 nights at Orotomeru/Amato era. But Amato didn't take it easy on him, he's got him in straps. He's got him in cuffs where he can't move somewhere. Rotomiru is definitely saying kinky. He's got ninja tech handcuffs on Costin Koji to keep him from controlling his chakra, and Amato is the one and control the whole situation. He tells him that the procedure he did on him wasn't physically invasive, which is a guy you never want to hear that when waking up speaking to another guy though. He does appear to pause, and he tells him that he messed up with Costin Koji's brain, and Koji starts to get mad at him right away, and Amato switches things up, and he tries to take that. Before we move ahead, please take a second to share on this video. Sharing helps this video reach friends who may also enjoy anime, gaming, travel, cricket, chess, career basics, or personal stories. Your support helps Amazing Apai grow naturally. High ground here. He says ultimately bro, everything I'm doing is for the sake of my daughter, and he says, I want to help you Costin Koji because it's in my best interest to do. So the things you see with 10 directions, it benefits us. Notice the wording there, it benefits us. He studied 10 directions and basically came up with the way to cut down on the interval between when Costin Koji gets his visions for the future. That way they can make the best out of 10 directions and be able to respond to changes made in the timeline faster than before. Amato says that he chose to basically make this a teaching moment for Costin Koji about what happens when you become too reliant on the power 10 directions, despite all the downside that comes from it having a long period between the vision updates and then them coming at random, because Koji can't control it. Amato flat out asked Costin Koji, the big elephant in the room, out of all of these timelines you've seen with this 10 directions, did you ever see a timeline where my daughter was successfully revived? And if so, what happened? Koji says that he retains all information from the timelines that he's viewed, and Amato's daughter never came to pass, and it's for a very dark reason. Jiro wins in almost every timeline. Koheki is the one who dies, and damn near every timeline, so it isn't just Boruto who dies most of the time. Koheki hardly ever survives. Either he never gets the chance to place the comma steal on Amato's daughter in any timeline. Koji saw, which now makes for a very interesting conversation about Kawaki, because Amato has a huge decision to make. Wait, Kawaki moving, for there's a lot more that takes place in this chapter, like a lot more. We're gonna have a lot of conversations, because there's a lot down pack. When you read the chapter you know what I mean, but I've seen 2 translations of the chapter and there's some stuff I want some clarification on. First, I trust one of the translations a lot more than the other. The second one I saw does kind of click it, use Google Translate, and you can't really do that with Japanese English because of how context heavy it is. Machine learning AI is not good enough to that level where it can fully replicate the nuances of Japanese like that. In particular, there's a mention of jury and everything that Kobu said regarding removing Shikamaru, because depending on how it's translated it sounds like Shikamaru is officially going down this hookage, and it's absolutely set in stone, and it can't be avoided, but it's also made clear it won't just be Shikamaru who goes down for this, but there will be several others who go down as well, because Kobu in the short time in the village has figured out enough to get the feudal lord to take action, and it's really a testament to how smart Kobu character is, in particular how observant he is. Again, we'll have the review up on the 20th of when the official release. Jobs we don't care about being the first one to do a review. This is more so everyone can support the official release, which this is a review. This is not story time recap. Some of what happened point by point. A review elevates the content with opinion analysis, critiques on what works and what didn't works, and it fills in extra context in order to elevate what is perceived on the page. Too long didn't recap tells you what happened. A review tells you why it happened, what happened, why it's worth your time, why it's not worth your time. Anyway, we've got some page on exclusive content that has been behind the paywall for last few months that's going to be debuting you on YouTube. For all viewers, they will be dropping soon as tomorrow, so keep notifications turned on. And in the meantime, click here for the newest Naruto Explained video, or click here for this video that YouTube says you will probably enjoy. Watch. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to Amazing Apai. Subscribing makes sure you do not miss the next video, and it gives me motivation to keep improving the quality of every upload. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one.